Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, you know what he be talking about. Talking Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Welcome to episode 271 of Inside HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show is in the sporting HBCU.
Cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights with information on HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Famer. As you see, Mike is out on assignment. We'll be getting a report from AD Drew about 6:15. We'll bring him in here. He has the Brian and AD. They had this new little segment they doing. I want to get a little information in terms of what's going on, what's on the mindset, the shorts as they talking about it, where they bring in some new highlights. I'm interested in that, and that gives me a chance to kind of plug 10,000. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. 10,000. Yeah, that's significant. We're not just gonna gloss over that as if we don't care about the HBCU sports culture just because it's somebody we know. But we're beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Before we get into all the HBCU sports and news and get into some good time talk, Brother Bishop, that's what I'm calling you today. Brother Bishop, we're going to go that route. We're going to go into it. I'm just feeling good a little bit about the lifestyle of the frozen and famous. With that being said, shout out to the lab listeners, man. We appreciate y'all. Charles, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal today. I mean, historic day. So I'm doing great. This is a big day, I think, for HBCU football, for Jackson State athletics, for HBCU athletics in general. So that's a phenomenal day. Phenomenal day to come on with you, Dr. Cavil, and kind of talk about this and wrap our minds around what is going on within the HBCU culture.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit then. One of the things that's going on is 3 pregame shows. Now, I know there's a lot of folks that think a lot of different things about the pregame show. Good, bad, and ugly. But it's obviously, some people have some significant interest. Momentous occasion happened the other day. And I must be honest, it escaped me. I knew y'all were doing well, whatever, and numbers were doing what they do, but I had no clue that you all were even that close. It's my understanding that you all hit 10,000. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, our
congratulations. Let me be the first to say publicly, congratulations.
No doubt about it. I want to say take my hat off to my partner Neely, and but yes, the pregame show YouTube channel hit 10,000 subscribers. We're well over 3.7 million views, and I tell you what, it's a labor of love. I tell you, my guy Neely, he does so much in terms of getting that content out there and taking you inside the behind the curtains, if you will, of Jackson State football. Coach Prime has given us all access to the football team, and to take that access and to create content for not just the Jackson State community, but the HBCU community as a whole. It means a lot. So appreciative for everybody that is subscribed to the pregame show.
Well, let me do this. I mean, I want to be careful here because folks, get the big head. I will say this though. I told you.
You did. Yes. Yes,
I told you. Now I can't take any credit for what you all have developed. I just knew what you were when you told me the ideas. I was all in. I supported. We got Roy on board. He does his thing in the background, so he gets some credit. I want to shout him out. He gets a lot of credit in terms of behind the scene, what he was able to do. AD Drew gets significant credit in terms of what's going on. Brian, because there's multiple folks that are behind the scene. Now, what y'all put up in front of the screen, that's all you all. So the lion's share goes to y'all, but I just want to let people understand the partnerships, because oftentimes we get in these things and act like it's individuals. It's the partnerships that are strategic. The partnership that was uniquely done with Roy behind the scene and the camera work and all the others that have acquiesced and helped with that, from Black College Sports Network, the negotiated space and partnership. And I'm going to shout them out because I think this is in sports in terms of HBCU Game Day, how they were able to create a partnership that elevated that platform. So for all our lab listeners, in terms of anything that I've tried to do is important to connect folks that are foundationally sound and understand where we can go when we create strategic partnerships. The partnership between you and Neely, an Alpha, a Kappa, different times when you were at Jackson State, right? The framework from what y'all see and what things you all do. Entrepreneur, a retired individual in terms of what they did in the business. But look at these unique partnerships when you find a common cause and go to work. So I think that's something that we just can't gloss over and ignore in terms of how all those things came together. And look what you all were able to produce and do in terms of getting that to a level where you reach 10K. And so I thought it was important to recognize that not just the 10K, but a little bit of behind the scenes so people understand why this is significant, because it's not just about you all. While certainly you all deserve most of, if not a great deal of all the accolades you all will get. But does that make sense when I put that on the table?
Oh, no doubt. Strategic partnerships, like you mentioned with Black College Sports Network, who has been a tremendous part of our platform in terms of us doing our live content on the day of games. That has been a huge component of this. And let me not forget Neely's daughter, Alexis Neely, who shares in capturing that content as well. She's been a tremendous component of the pregame show. So I definitely want to make sure I acknowledge Alexis and her work with regards to the pregame show. But you mentioned the strategic partnerships with HBCU Game Day, Black College Sports Network, and really trying to do our part to tell the story in this space of Jackson State football. So it has been a tremendous year from the time our YouTube channel jumped off on March of 2021 to now to be over 10,000 subscribers. It means a lot, and we hope that we're doing justice with regards to capturing that content, putting that content out there, and telling the story of Jackson State football.
A little over a year, 10K, man. Hey, man, I know we don't tell everybody this, but I owe you a drink, bro.
I appreciate it. Hey, I'm going to wait on it in Birmingham. I'll wait to Birmingham.
There you go.
Yes,
some shout out some of our loyal lab listeners in here getting it done. We appreciate y'all. News is out there. We're going to bring it to y'all. Y'all keep coming. Carolyn McGee, Chuck Hunt, always up on it. I need to make sure I get Chuck Hunt a shirt, cap, or something, man. He's one of the 100. Michael Lee is another 100. Kate Johnson is another 100. Man, shoot, I ain't going to be able to afford all these folks to just do it like this. But we're going to make sure we show y'all some love. Noel Price, another 100. Matthew Bradford, appreciate you. Thomas St. Maddox, another 100. Ricky Burton, another 100. Jimmy Wilson, another 100. Shoot, man, they gonna kick me out of the academy giving all these A pluses. They gonna think I said no. That's just how we do in our class. We teach, and folks come with it. They put in the work. So just wanted to give a shout out there. We're up on it. We're going to take our first break. We'll read right back and we'll get into some more HBCU news. We're going to get into some dialogue on the second half. We'll talk a little bit about this Sports Illustrated. Yes, out there. We told you. See, on Tuesday, y'all thought we were just trying to big it up. Another chapter continues to fold. But as we do that, let's take this break and we'll be right back.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. We got Brother Bishop. We got Clinical Professor Drew. He's coming in. He's going to give us some updates. But before we do that, I want to say today's episode of Inside HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. You want to know your data? You want to know your sporting? You want to know your educational side? Bring it to us. We'll get it done. Trust me. We take care of a lot of folks that are productive when we get finished with them in terms of what they do on the business side. With that being said, welcome, Professor Drew. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Dr. Cavil. I also wanted to throw my congratulations to Bishop and Neely with the pregame show. You hit a significant number, my brother. You know, it's like when your stock portfolio hits that first million, which I'm still waiting on that one. But next to that, that's a significant number. And the pregame show story is one day I was in the airport. I want to say I was in DC on a layover, just switching planes, and I had something. I don't even remember. I had gear on. I think I had some FAMU gear or something like that on. And some guy was talking to me, and long story short, found out I was associated with Black College Sports Network. And then your show came up. Oh no, he was a Jackson State grad. That's why the conversation got started, because you know how HBCU navigate to HBCU in strange spaces, and he was a Jackson State grad, and I asked him, did he watch the pregame show? And he said, yeah, I tuned into it as much as I can. He's a military guy. And I said, well, I'm actually one of the producers on that particular show. And he said, and it's like all of a sudden my street cred just went up when I said I was a producer of the pregame show.
It's a different concept. I mean, it's a sort of a different environment. I fly back and forth from Houston to Jackson, and it kind of catches you a little bit off guard when somebody recognizes you, and hey, you're from the pregame show. It's like, oh, yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. So the fan base is really gravitated toward the pregame show, and so thankful for everybody tuning in to watch, and really appreciative of that. So like I said, it's not just a celebration of the pregame show, but a celebration of Jackson State football, of HBCU culture, and we try to bring all that in as we introduce the game.
Yeah, and I before I switch off of this, I gotta put this out here. Lab listeners, this stuff is not easy. Podcasting is time consuming. Podcasting takes a financial commitment, not only from the people that you see in front of the camera, but people behind the camera. So it takes a time commitment and a financial commitment. And then you have to figure out how to keep content fresh that people actually want to pay attention to. So not only, let's look at it. Not only do you have 10,000 people who have gone to your platform and said, I like it and I want to see more, but you've got close to 4 million different views of your content. I think that is probably the more significant number than the 10,000 subscribers. The fact you're approaching 4 million views. I'm going to celebrate you when you hit 4 million views a hell of a lot more than 10,000 subscribers. So do the math and figure out how many times those 10,000 people have come back if you get ready to hit 4 million views.
And let me say this: it is because of Dr. Cavil's platform that I've been able to develop another platform with Neely. So I'm appreciative of this space every Tuesday and Thursday for me to get out in front of people. So I don't want that to go unnoticed. I think it's very important to the work that Dr. Cavil has put in with regards to his show that has allowed another branch, if you will, to kind of sprout from this HBCU space. So very appreciative, Dr. Cavil, of you allowing me to come on your show when we were over at the radio station, and now it's grown into this. So super appreciative.
Yeah, and you have you all have inspired shows such as the ONG Strike Zone, which is here on the Black College Sports Network, which is not a duplicate of the pregame show, but was inspired. The concept of the ONG Strike Zone was kind of inspired, if not pushed ahead of, by the pregame show. If they could do it for Jackson State, we could do this for FAMU with our own spin and our own twist behind it. 1876 Sports and Culture, another show. Not the same show, but the fact that you guys went out and did it and were moderately successful at the start. Now it's grown exponentially since then, but it's led to other shows and to some other people who will try to duplicate it and will not give you guys the credit. We're going to give you the credit. Everybody not going to give y'all the credit. So, brother,
sure, no
Bishop,
doubt. Yeah.
And everybody behind the scenes, take this credit down. I'm sharing my credit on this also.
I very appreciate it.
Kudos to you, Drew. That's why we bring you on there, bringing those selling points. Near 4 million views, as you said, is significant, and we will come back and celebrate that again. So it means I guess I owe him 2 drinks. And unfortunately,
better get on the payment plan, Doc.
Pay now, pay later. So I've already got my drink, so he's gonna get his full. I ain't got the payback in terms of bringing it on. But I will say this: that I appreciate the acknowledgement. But anybody knows me, that's what it's about. It's about giving platforms to other folks so they can spread. And I hope if whenever they have to write my epithet, that they talk about that. Now I'm a builder of other individuals, and I put my time and my money and space to build other folks in their platform. The rest of it will take care of itself. I'm in a disposition, in a place where I can do that. And so I think it's something wrong with me. I don't do that. But let's lighten this up a little bit. I want to shout out Jimmy, because he finds a way to put levity to this. And I thought his comments were right on point before we get into the interview. He says Charles is now a media star. So, hey, Charles, so anytime I see you now, I'm refer to you as that star, the media star. You got to own that one now. Brother,
I know. I'll own it. I'll own it.
Hey, now this is the other one. You know about our people, right? They gonna find a way to get in your pocketbook. He said 10K means YouTube is paying. Why everybody want to find out your money? I don't know what it's about. You ain't got to say 10K. You got some money.
Hey, I'm gonna be like, really? Is that? Oh, I didn't know. Oh,
I need to find where that bank account is at.
Hey, I gotta check in on that.
You say, why you ain't get your point? Well, hey, that's on me. That's between you and me. You need to talk to me. Chuck Hunt, shout out to say AD is giving some truth. So shout out to AG. And since we're doing it, let's turn back to the focus of why we have you on here. Before we get in this break, so we got to get into this.
Quickly.
We got the sports wrap, and you're doing another platform called the Shorts. In terms of that, tell us what that's about and why that's important.
Great, and ironically, thank you Pregame Show for helping us with the idea of it, because you guys with your daily content and some of the other things that you put out specifically on YouTube. Brian and I were talking a few weeks ago. It's like I was thinking about doing something on a daily basis. He was thinking about creating something on a daily basis. And we went back and forth with it. And that's how we came up with this idea called the BCSN Sports Wrap Shorts. Well, during the summertime, sometimes it's hard to find enough content for us. We do a 2-hour show. It's going to be hard to find content to do 2 1-hour shows in 1 week, unless we get some more conference churn in June, like we've seen in the past. And then our whole month of June already be taken care of. But let's not hope for that right now. So we just think about it. There are some things that just come out, the smaller news stories, and okay, we can just focus in one topic about 15 minutes. Just put it out there, let people put their likes, comments, and clicks on it, and just put it out there. Obviously, to drive traffic, to drive more subscribers to our platform, and to see. And I don't know if all you guys have seen the first topic that we hit, but we hit a kind of a serious topic the first time. We took it serious, had just a hair of fun with it, but it was more serious than anything else. And that's the Norfolk State saga going on with the sexual assault or the attempted sexual assault of one of their football players by another football player at Norfolk State, over what's been reported over 2 coaching administrations.
Alleged. But it is a federal Title IX, so it's certainly serious. So I certainly understand why you started out with that short, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes in this direction. But I think it was brilliant to continue to find different ways to provide that content in a different format, particularly from a 2-hour show that's going in a different direction. Before we get into this break, Lennon Blow put out there, what about Virginia State, Bowie State, Fayetteville State, Kentucky State, and Clark Atlanta University joining the MEAC? So folks are wanting to get into some of your conference journey, and somebody else has put it out there. We'll be able to maybe look at that in the second half.
June 30th.
As appropriately said by Karen Griffin, yes. Are they willing to spend the money? Yeah, that is a significant question. I'll put this out here before we close the break. I don't think you'll see a lot of conference churning during this break, as you talked about, particularly from the Division II level, from the fact that you have the NCAA Transformation Division I committee. I think I said this before, just to be repetitive, because they're going to put the demarcation in terms of what it means to Division One. I think you're going to see most NCAA Division II schools freeze until they find out that information, because the NCAA put out a declaration that says even if you come in now, you're still going to be responsible for whatever comes out of that transformation Division One. So you had a couple of programs that jumped, earlier in the time span, but you see a lot of things frozen. I think there's some talk with SWAC in terms of expansion. I want to make this clear. This is not coming out of the SWAC office. You've heard this from a couple of coaches. Carlos Brown's show. You've seen it on the O&G show. But I think what those coaches are referring to is the magnitude and all the glamour and eyes that are on the SWAC. And they're saying that other institutions will see what that looks like. So I think they're talking about what they believe is 2-3 years down the road. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. And again, that's going to be after the transformation committee. There are 2 key target dates that are out there. Howard University today and tomorrow, their board is meeting. So if something's going to come out of it, you think it would come out in this decision now before that July 1st date. Next week, Tennessee State Board, regents, trustees are meeting. But if you look at the agenda item there, it just talks about an update from the athletic department. So I believe that's just a general update. So I don't think you'll see any major announcements. Now, people can be quiet and things are churning in the background. And don't get it twisted. These folks are always working, in terms of what their next move is, whether it's what you think it should be or in a different direction or just reviewing stuff. But that's the latest update I can give you in terms of what that looks like. I do not believe Virginia State in terms of is serious looking at it. They've done their homework. I don't see them looking seriously at Division One. I think you have a dynamic president there is looking at other opportunities in terms of maybe the baseball program, trying to find a way to partner with the SIC as an affiliate member to get the baseball program over there. You may even see some programs looking at totally different radical way of how they do NCAA. And don't be surprised if you see some news coming out of the NIA about the Gulf Coast Athletic Conferences being aggressive in terms of expansion moves that may come out. So it may not necessarily be with the SWAC, the MEAC, but you see SIAC, CIAA, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, you're going to see those matriculation down in terms of conference churning continue to move forward as we move forward, if you would. Let's get into our second break. We'll be right back to talk a little bit more about the news, and y'all keep it bringing, and we can give you some updates. We got the kind of time now. If you bring us some updates, we may be able to get them into the discourse a little more than we normally do. So keep it coming. Great information, and we'll be right back after this second break.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Tybach, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fenoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fenoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. We're back in the house, back in the building. Let me go to you, Brother Bishop. What HBCU news is hiding out there? I know we got NCAA open up men's, and we got some teams that are getting into the final stretch, running well yesterday. A couple of stumbling blocks. What's some news in terms of track and field, in terms of mainly North Carolina A&T? You got the women kicking off today, which would include Howard in terms of what they get done in a couple of other programs. What you see out there in the track and field space?
Well, I think within the track and field space, it is North Carolina A&T. They kind of had a up and down day with regards to doing a couple of runners were able to advance in their heats, but they did have one runner qualified. But overall, they are, if I'm not mistaken, they're currently 20th in the rankings. They are in the NCAA team event, so we'll see how North Carolina A&T can finish this off.
Yeah, they don't have as many folks and many events that they're running nationally. So where they had that strong finish last year, so they didn't have a lot of margin for error. So with the highs and some of the disappointments, it's going to be more of a challenge than to get the type of finish going into the season where they were looking at maybe pushing over or cracking in that door, if you would, and chasing a championship, a national championship. I think that's going to be a little harder at this point, but they're still going to be very intriguing and interesting to watch. And then they got one of the best in the business when you talk about what's going on with Randall Ross Jr. And he just continues to shine. So if there's any golden light out there, he's certainly getting done what he's doing in terms of just blazing up the trails and doing what he needs to do individually and in terms of what he's doing on the 4x1 and the 4x4 in terms of those races. So I've got my eyes at least on what he's doing, if not A&T overall. With that being said, Drew, what type of news did you have out there that's exciting you? And followed up with the question I think that you also wanted to put on the table that we can discuss even further after you break down some additional news.
Before I hit my news item, going to A&T track, the 4x4, I believe, did qualify for the finals, which I believe are going to be run on Friday. And I think that's the event that everyone in the HBCU sphere is focused on, is that A&T's 4x4. And the announcement also that Ross Jr. said either he's going to Tennessee or going pro. So let's see which way he goes. And I'm wondering if how he competes at these nationals will influence him one way or the other, whether he thinks he's ready for the pros. If he has a dominating performance at the Nationals, I'm probably leaning to him going pro. If not, he's probably going to spend another season with Dad and refine his craft with Dad. So
I agree with you, because I will add on this: if he does well, the dollars in terms of potential sponsors signing to the contract is going to be similar to what you saw for Stargers coming out as a freshman. It's almost going to dictate the fact that he's going to go pro. I think smartly that he's putting out there that he may attend Tennessee because
that's going to drive the dollars up.
Yeah, not only that, I think it's to support his dad being able to just recently sign. And so it looks good that there's at least an opportunity that he might come there as well. So I think that's part of it in terms of just putting those options out there. I think it's smart business move.
Yeah. My news, I want to actually get back into this Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame ballot. I think you touched on it on Tuesday's show. But I want to give you, since we give credit out today, I want to give credit to you and Brian for the article you guys did. I believe that was back in this past football season, called Game Changers. It's on the BCSN website, www.mybcsn.net. And I want to highlight two people that you got as one person that was in that article that you guys did a lot earlier this year, this academic year, and then one person that has a little significance to me personally. The one that you guys brought out was Eddie Hurt, who was at Virginia Lynchburg. Yes, Virginia Lynchburg used to play good football, y'all. They weren't everybody's bridesmaid for homecoming back in the day, from 1925 to 1928, and then most notably at Morgan State from 1930 to 1959, where he led Morgan State to, count them, y'all, 14 CIAA championships and 6 national championships, Black College National Championships. And you went over it, but 11 undefeated seasons. A team that went unscored upon in 1943, a 54-game winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
We talk Eddie Robinson. We talk Jake Gaither. We need to talk more Eddie Hurt. I mean, those are some numbers that Nick Saban all you want to. Nick Saban ain't got nothing on this.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it brings me back to acknowledge, obviously, that's the College Hall of Fame, but you also have the Black College Football Hall of Fame, which announces class of 2022. And Coach Billy Nix, that was also in that article, was honored in terms of being in the class of 2022. And I got a shout out for Jimmy on his page, recognizing the work that we did in that same article. So again, this is another example when you create those partnerships and you put the work in, you never know who will get the accolades to celebrate. And we don't know how much of that paid to it, but you would hope to some degree there was some acknowledgement that somebody came across that article and said, hey, we need to take a second look at this and provide these coaches, and in this form, their families, that get the recognition that was due to the coach, that the coach probably wasn't looking for, but certainly never got. But the families and also the players that acknowledge the greatness of their coach. All of them now get to honor and celebrate somebody that was dear and near and close to them. So it works out. So I'm glad that you bring that piece together and acknowledge what that looks like. So great points there when we talk about it. We'll come back after this last break and maybe get in a couple of questions that people have out there. I think there's some good ones in there, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Sports Illustrated. I'm going to get me a couple of articles. That's just what I do. I did my homework when we did the expansion to the SWAC. MEAC, I got mine. It's various articles out there. I put them up real nicely. Made sure that I can have them for the history and record books, because years down the road, somebody hopefully it takes my seat and decides to make sure that they record this history, that they'll have those artifacts to really take the deeper dive and do that analysis. So I appreciate both of y'all for putting those on the table. Great updates and news that's out there. But we'll be back on the other side and talk a little bit about Deion Sanders in the cover of Sports Illustrated. So we'll talk a little bit about sports. We'll see what the split time is as we run this last leg of the 400. Keep your eyes on it. Somebody's going down the stretch. It's just getting good.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together we can be the change.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want, keep tab. I'ma do the dab. Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBC Sports Lab with Charles and A.D. Drew. That's Charles Bishop, as they like to call him around these parts. With that being said, I want to get in there. Edward Waters is still in the news. I'm not going to say back in the news. They still in the news. A.D. Drew. Firstly, what do they have that puts them continually in the news?
Well, it's something about Diamond Sports in Jacksonville, Florida, that's keeping them in the news. And this time it is because, according to the Black College Sports Network computers, Edward Waters softball was named our national champions for their prowess on the softball diamond. And you could go and read the article on my BCSN.net to really get deeper inside the numbers. But a couple of things I want to highlight in that article was number one, 32 victories this season on the diamond by Edward Waters. That's number one. Number two, the fact that Edward Waters had more victories against HBCU competition than in a diamond sport than any male or female team, with 21 victories against HBCU competition this year.
Very significant.
21 victories against HBCU competition, including double-digit victories. Oh, I believe it was 11-3 versus SIAC opponents who they will be playing on a regular next year. Now, let's put this into perspective. In the top 5, Tuskegee was your national champion. Benedict was also a top 5 program in Division II. And Albany State, Benedict finished number 5, Albany State finished number 3. You're going to add the NAIA national champs in to a division that has 3 of the top 5 current HBCU softball teams. And of course, while we call it the Diamond Double Play, let's not forget Emma Waters' baseball team won the Tyson Foods Black College World Series this year to claim the title on the men's side.
You know, there's a lot of light that's shown on the SWAC, rightly so. Put it in terms of what's going on there. Obviously, MEAC, what they did in the Celebration Bowl, also what they did on the basketball court, specifically with the men, in terms of what they've been getting done in a lot of ways over the last couple of years. But that SIAC, especially in terms of baseball and softball, that expansion move with Edward Waters University coming into the talent, as you talk about the top 5 programs and how many of those top 5 programs reside in SIC, both on baseball and softball, it's going to get extremely interesting and something to keep your eyes on, those that look at the global perspective. If you, when I'm talking about global, I'm talking about all HBCU sports, NIA, Division II, and Division I. It's going to be fascinating when you look at that.
One last thing on that. Don't forget about Spring Hill, even though they are not an HBCU, also competes in the SIAC. Spring Hill won the SIAC baseball and were runner-ups in SIAC softball and actually had a better national ranking than our HBCU champion, which was Tuskegee, out of the same conference. So
great point. Point well taken.
That's what you're talking about. The competition is going to be when you add that factor into it also.
Great point. Great point. I want to talk a little bit about, before we take that next step and take this real dive in terms of Sports Illustrated, I wanted to go up a little bit to Tennessee State. Tennessee State, as we jump back, has gotten quiet around here, but people are peeking in a little bit on the basketball, right? Penny, that's Brian Penny Collins, signed a 3-star basketball player. Jones, that's decided to stay home out of East Nashville Magnet High School. Jalen Jones, to be exact. I think it's fascinating in terms of that. Just visited on Tuesday, made his commitment. What I want to tie this in is what we talked about, the fact that former Tennessee State basketball standout of 2009 and 13, Robert Covington, who's still in the NBA with the Los Angeles Clippers, donated $1 million to the Covington Pavilion, which will house both the men's and women's practice facility. He was drafted in 2013. I'm curious to what and how that may be able to help in terms of signing this 3-star that we heard about today. So I'm fascinated about that and how that moves the needle moving forward. So good pickup by Coach Penny Collins in terms of what he's able to do there. With that being said, let's transition over a little bit because I want to get both of your thoughts in terms of this. First of all, the news is big in itself, but the way it played out with the pregame show, because we gave him little accolades, that little clip that you had when he brought them into the room, and it's not like they weren't aware of the Sports Illustrated, but the way that Coach Prime Cody, he often is referred to, brought out his old magazines and kind of taught a history lesson and talked to these young men in terms of them to acknowledge the space they're in. And then he brought it in terms of Jackson State and HBCUs. If you hadn't seen that little clip, go to the pregame, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and check out that clip, because I'm sure that you've seen the pictures on the various media platforms, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Sports, social media platforms, whether it's the pregame, Coach Sanders himself, his websites, all of them are out there. So you can't miss it. Sports Illustrated, obviously, they have it out there. And again, I'm going to buy my magazine. And I encourage all those, whether you a Jackson State fan or not, HBCUs, in terms of also this is a measure in terms of how we consume HBCU products. So if you can afford it. I think it's bigger than just Jackson State. The fact that if it's consumed enough, folks will understand the magnitude about other HBCUs maybe getting a chance to find Sports Illustrated. Going back to the Heisman winner, rival to Jackson State, Alcorn McNair, when he graced the Sports Illustrated cover and beyond, some things to think about it. But just wanted to get your thoughts. First, I'm going to go with you, 80, Drew, and then let Charles get in here, and I'll ask him some from an inside perspective, his thoughts of kind of seeing this coming out and how it came out, how he put that together. But generally, what is the importance level of this, Drew, in terms of attaining the cover with Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, the top #1 ranked recruit, that even you had Alabama, Nick Saban finding a way to put his name in their mouths in terms of who he's referencing, not necessarily saying the name, obviously, but referring to what does this mean for the culture? What does this mean for Jackson State? What does it mean for the SWAC? Where do you put all this?
Man, Sports Illustrated cover? Sports Illustrated cover? You know, that's like being on the front page of the New York Times, my brother. That's one of those significant things that you accomplish in life. All right, let's just do the math. First of all, there are only 52 covers per year for Sports Illustrated. Yep. So let's just put that into perspective. There are only 52 of them. And one of those is a swimsuit issue. So you only got 51 times, unless you go get out there in your Speedo to get on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Oh, you go get out there on the cover on the Speedo?
Negative.
I know you're working out, man. Come on.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
You got 10K. You're about to get 4 million. You can't get no Speedo.
Hey, he could buy a touch up with that money for them 10K subscribers. No, but seriously though, only 4 times has an FCS program donned the cover of the Sports Illustrated, and I hope our producer got those pictures that I sent to him. We'll talk about the non-HBCU, which was their Division II Appalachian State, and that probably occurred after that big upset that they had against Michigan. Not sure about the date, but I can almost guarantee you that. The other 2 times was when Eddie Robinson passed Paul Bear Bryant for the most victories in major college football, and the other time, which I believe that was 1985. And the other time was 93, I believe, when Steve McNair was the buzz of all of football in his pursuit of the Heisman, where he finished number 3 in the Heisman voting and was the highest finisher ever by a FCS player and an HBCU player.
Great points. Great points. Charles, I'm going to ask you like this. First, I got to ask you before you get your perspective, because I know where you're going to go on your perspective. You're going to be politically correct. So I don't even go. I won't do all. I know you by now. We're going to ask you something to make you think and change your whole process. I want to ask you, how did you hold on to this?
It was hard. I'll tell you that. It was really hard when I found out that this was going to happen. I knew the significance of it. I knew how historic it would be. To actually take a look at the layout of it, there are things that jumped out for me that I don't know if everybody catches. if you take a look at the cover itself, it's 3 different looks of Jackson State. You have Shedeur with the Tigers jersey. You have Coach Prime in the middle with the block JSU, the iconic block JSU. And then you have the other white jersey with the Jackson State going across the front. So that the imagery just popped, initially for me. But growing up, I remember the 85 cover of Eddie Robinson that was in so many people's man caves, framed copies of that. I was in school when Hand Him the Heisman came out with Steve in there, and how significant that was, and to actually look and see Jackson State on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and it's iconic. Most athletes in the world want to be on the cover of this magazine, and not only is it highlighting Jackson State, it's highlighting HBCU culture. There's so much to take a look at it that I'm still sort of absorbing it all. It is, magnificent to look at. And I remember how excited I was as an HBCU fan for Eddie Robinson to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. It meant the world to me to see him on the cover of Sports Illustrated and to go into various barbershops in Jackson and see that frame, cover of Eddie Robinson. Alcorn is Jackson State's bitter rival, but I couldn't have been more excited and happy to see Stephen there on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I just hope that we have that same sort of feel now in terms of taking a look at Shedeur, Travis, and Coach Prime on the cover of the Sports Illustrated cover, because it's significant. It's historic. It means a lot. There will be little kids growing up just as I was looking at that Eddie Robinson cover in awe, looking at this Sports Illustrated cover in awe.
Well said, well said. I also want to make another time. Back in the beginning of the show, I talked about the partnership and how important relationships is. I'm not sure how many of you realize when Nick Saban, and I don't bring him up to give any more news than necessary, but we talked about the article that Brian and I did that really looked at the diasporic, historic nature, if you would, of championships from that perspective of dynastic, as I wanted to call it, dynasty makers. Saban follows the path of these HBCU 11s and how they go into the College Hall of Fame and the Black College Hall of Fame in terms of that. We also talked about the connection of what you all were able to do in terms of hitting 10,000 views and approaching 4 million. Subscribers at 10,000 and approaching 4 million viewers that A.D. Drew pointed out. But when Saban made this comment, I thought the way that Coach Prime strategically decided who he was going to go to get his message. And he went to Marshall, which was one of the early platforms he went out when he first took the job and said that he was going to go after 5U stars. He went back to that platform, and some of those have changed. You have the pivot, sometimes rotated off of that show with Brandon Marshall and the athletes of what they're talking about, which is one thing, right? But also was John Jock Taylor, who's followed Coach Prime when he was playing in Dallas, writes from the news, went to Skyline, and went to school with another guy that is a friend of mine that I actually was a roommate of mine at Prairie View, that I've built up a relationship, and at some point we'll have him on the show, and I had a chance to have him on early, but purposely wanted to wait because I didn't want everybody to understand how deep these relationships go. But the fact that he was a part of the article that was written and also did the retort that went to what was the undefeated and now is the Anscape. I think it is important, again, for people to analyze the purposeful platform of how these interconnections are extremely important. So I thought it was important to also show that part of, because both of you all's comments in terms of relating how strategic important this platform is are notable, but I wanted to put a whole different perspective and spin on that. And so I thought that was important context to bring out to a lot of people there. So again, if you have the means, get your Sports Illustrated, because as Charles and Drew alluded to in a lot of ways, it's important contextually for the culture about what is taking place here. But it's fascinating to see the multiple pitches and what that looks like and how this is going to impact things going forward. So with that being said, we'll bring it to a close, but I will let either of you have any final thoughts in terms as we move into next week and start looking at some of the things that surround us. We got some great interviews lined up for you. I think will change you and put you in a different mode of thought and a different perspective, but wanted to do that. Any final thoughts from you, Drew?
Want to pay attention to see who the next SIAC commissioner hire will be. Will it be somebody who's already there in the SIAC office? Will there be an athletic director from one of the current SIAC schools that becomes the commissioner? Will there be someone else, maybe a commissioner in another conference comes over to it? And the most interesting question that I have with all of this is Greg Moore graciously walks away from his job as SIAC commissioner. Will the next commissioner be male or female? And what does that say, or what direction will that person go? And would a female voice make a difference in the direction of where the SIAC goes versus a male perspective? We've seen the success of Dr. Jackie McWilliams over in the CIAA, and we've got two basically freshman commissioners in Sonia Steels and Kiki Baker-Barnes, although Kiki Baker-Barnes was doing dual enrollment, and since we're going to keep it on the academic perspective, she was doing dual enrollment as athletic director and interim commissioner in the GCAC. So let's see who takes over the SIAC.
I like that. Final thoughts, Charles?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge everyone who offered congratulations with regards to the pregame show. Again, I want to say thank you to all of those who have subscribed and all of everybody who has watched the YouTube page. And I want to acknowledge my partner, Neely. He does a tremendous job in framing the content, putting the content out on the YouTube page, and Facebook page, and Instagram as well. But he has a director's eye for how things should look in regards to the content that is put out. So I definitely want to acknowledge the work that he and Alexis both do in regards to how that content comes across. And definitely thank you, Dr. Cavil, once again for allowing me this platform that has extended to the pregame show as well, and definitely BCSN for the production value that has gone into the pregame show on our live broadcast. So thank you to everyone, and I'm very appreciative. So onward and upward from here. That is a theme that I do believe within my life.
Yeah, light it up. With that being said, for you all that's with us, just know that we're just getting started. It's going to get bigger and better. We got a lot of good things planning, particularly coming up this fall. Some great interviews coming up over the summer, and then before you know it, we're getting in July, and it's time to get to some of those media days, and we're going to bring it hot and heavy. With that, thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and A.D. Drew. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock. Stick with us. We'll be back next week, Tuesday and Thursday, to give you some live content and the greatest updates in the news from only this perspective you can get from this side of it. We'll discuss the latest news of the week. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyatta Cavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Drew?
Of course.
Charles?
Lecture.
Dismiss.